Reddit Ask Me Anything. I've traveled to every single country in the world. Ask me anything. I'm now 29, but in my early 20s I dropped out of college, saved funds for a year and decided to visit a few countries. This started a goal to visit every single country in the world, and 6 years later, I had been to all 196 UN recognized countries. For a bit of background, I am originally from Australia, but I moved to the US in my teens and mainly went to school there. My family is fairly well off, so that has certainly helped with my travels, although I was definitely not living lavishly to say the least. Anyways, ask me anything. How was your time in Turkey? Although I was only there for a couple of days, the immersion into the Turkish culture as well as all the mosques astounded me. The Turkish have really managed to develop their own flavor and style. It's incredible. Do you remember which country was the most forgettable? To be honest, I did not have a great time in a lot of West Africa in terms of getting visas together and all. That combined with the strict government and kinda generic experiences made a lot of West Africa unenjoyable, like Mali and Burundi. I would have expected Mali to be amazing. The library and mud castles at Timbuktu, in particular, I would have thought to be worth the trip alone. Not so much. There's certainly plenty to experience. However, the vibes from the locals weren't very positive. If I remember correctly, I believe Mali was the country where I actually had to stay at the customs office for half a day just to end up paying the officers more for a visa I'd already gotten. I think that in itself ruined the trip, just having to deal with corruption and visa issues at the border. Did you go to North Korea? I visited North Korea in late 2013. Back when tensions weren't necessarily as high, and getting that particular visa was a headache. The country isn't as bad as I've previously heard, however we had to go with a tour guide basically 24/7, so I'm not sure how accurate my experience is. When did you go to Libya? How was it? Libya was incredible. One of the top African countries. I am a bit of a history nerd, so to see the fort's Italian architecture left behind by the Italians as well as the cafe culture and all was amazing. Specifically, Libya has a great representation of North African architecture, and just overall, even though it was a hassle to get into the country, was well worth it. Out of all the countries, where does South Korea rank for you? I've been to several countries in the world and South Korea by far is my favorite. So much to do, and such an active community and nightlife. Unbelievably energetic country from my time in city. I absolutely love the food since I have a soft spot for Asian cuisine. But yeah, definitely up there in terms of Asia, and I look forward to visiting other cities in South Korea apart from Seoul. Which country? Yes. Did you like better than South Korea? Specifically in Asia. I want to visit more countries in Asia. For sure. I have also been to Japan and thought it was awesome. Also, which country has the best food? This could be any of the countries. Well, if you're including Asia all the way to Turkey, then I would definitely recommend Indonesia, Iran, however they are in a bit of a pickle, ATM, India, Malaysia and Singapore. In terms of food, you can't really compare. From my experiences, every single Asian country has provided. If I was to recommend signatures, Iranian lamb kebabs and yogurt. Literally any Singaporean food court for Asian classics. Thailand no doubt has the best dirty street food. India has such a diverse cuisine for one single country. If you want to stick to East Asia, China is definitively the best country for experiences and food. You can live 70 different lives in all the different cities and provinces. Cheap too if that's a factor for you. Are you male or female? How did you get the funds together? And have you been to Iraq? Male. My parents are well off and so they obviously helped me out a bit. Other than that, I worked a bit for my father and saved enough in a bit over a year's worth of work to travel frugally abroad for a while. Big tip. Start saving as soon as you can. Living expensive while traveling is a choice because surprisingly a huge portion of the world is really cheap to live in and as such cheap to travel. Finally, of course I have been to Iraq. I was there for 5 days or so, and a lot of the smaller towns are nothing like what the media portrays them, especially during the day. However, at night you could still hear gunfire and whatnot in the far distance. Was kind of hoping you were a chick, lol. How was Egypt? Egypt is good, but there is better basically, like it is very idyllic and unique. especially the mosques and sandstone streets. However, in terms of Northern Africa culture, I personally found countries like Libya and Morocco to be more enjoyable and friendly than Egypt. Then again, this is just my personal opinion, so take it or leave it. Haha. How was your experience in the Philippines? What did you do? I actually had a friend I used to go to school with from the Philippines on one of the smaller islands on the east coast. Can't remember the name, lol. But yeah, the Philippines is really a hidden gem that no one knows about. Pristine beaches and lovely local fresh seafood. Super cheap as well. And the people were so courteous. Definitely enjoyed it very much. What do you think of Costa Rica? Like a dream. If I was to summarize the vibe of South America, it'd be Costa Rica. The jungles, beaches, waterfalls, people, just such a relaxing and chill tone. 2 questions. Were the countries similar to their stereotypes? How was India? Some were exactly how I imagined, namely countries like Canada, Norway, UK, etc. Others, however, blew me away. Nothing like what I believed them to be. A lot of Middle Eastern countries, for example, were up there. Moral is, duck the stereotypes. See it for yourself and judge. Have you ever visited India? If yes, when? What was your first experience? What did you think was gonna happen to you while visiting India? How much did it cost you overall? For 4 years or so of travel. Very rough $80,000 US. What do you think about Belgium? What did you visit there? Loved Belgium. Such kind people. Better versions of the French, lol. What shocked me visiting both Brussels and Antwerp was how in one city they spoke French and the other German. I know this is fairly common, but to have a divide in one country with 2 major cities so close to each other feels surreal. It's very cool. How was Czech Republic? D. Underrated. Almost definitely underrated. Just as good as any other major European city, if not better, only much cheaper and personal. I felt like a local there, and felt as though I was treated like one. What cities did you visit in Canada? Visited Toronto during the winter, as well as a smaller town on the border called International Falls. Do you have a day job or do you work remotely? Tell us about some hard to go countries like North Korea or Bhutan. Do you have a favorite? Now, since I am back home, I have gone back into my father's business helping him out. I've posted about North Korea somewhere on this thread, but Bhutan is incredibly beautiful and is a world of its own in Asia. Like, you can see the influences from the neighboring countries, but the mountain ranges and the serenity within the country astounded me. It just seemed like a very peaceful country for the short few days I was there. A bit pricey though for an Asian country. It is really a hidden gem. France, hands down, was my favorite country. I am a history nerd, so seeing all the architecture was a shock. The French culture really appeals to me and I am considering moving to France one day. But really, there are so many amazing countries that people seem to skip on because of several issues, such as Iran, Chile, Cuba and Saudi Arabia. You just gotta go see it with your own eyes, man. I want to go to Hungary eventually. What was your experience like there? Very idyllic and almost an escape from larger European cities. It's a lot quieter than I expected, and the Hungarian culture is very much prevalent throughout Bucharest, where I visited. Almost like a cheaper and less crowded version of like Florence if I was to compare it to anything. How was your time in North Korea? How was the people there? Was there any person stalking following you? What kind of food did they serve? Very artificial to say the least. Always with a tour guide when outside. Having to be told where to go and not to go. Not being allowed to take many pictures, etc. I think the experience in itself was very controlled and manipulated so that we would see the bright side of North Korea, as we didn't really see many locals outside of our tour. Food served was almost like a blander version of South Korean food. It wasn't anything worth to mentioning. How did you like the Netherlands? And which cities did you visit in the Netherlands? Netherlands was just Amsterdam that I visited. I visited the country in early 2012 as a stopover en route to France. And I hate to be stereotypical and tourist-like, but the canals were of another kind. Like, that part of the city blew me away. The Dutch are a different breed of people. They are possibly the most generous people in Europe. Walking street by street being greeted with smiles was amazing. Was definitely a pleasant experience despite my short stay and slightly more expensive price tags. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.